In 1776, the British occupied New York City, and Washington was desperate. He created the Culper Spy Ring. This wasn't a group of soldiers, it was a group of civilians. The laundry code. Imagine a woman named Anna Straw. To the British, she was just a housewife hanging her laundry. But to the Americans, her clothesline was a digital dashboard. A black petticoat meant a message was ready. The number of white handkerchiefs hung next to it told the courier which dead drop location to go to. The invisible ink. They used sympathetic stain, a chemical ink that stayed invisible until you held the paper over a flame or treated it with a specific reagent. Washington's spies would write a boring letter about the weather or family life, and then hide the real military secrets between the lines in invisible ink. If these people were caught, they weren't treated as prisoners of war. They were hanged as traitors. This chapter of history proves that America wasn't just built on liberty. It was built on secrets, hidden ink, and a housewife's laundry. Chapter 2. 1816, the year the sun went out. This is one of the most terrifying and overlooked moments in history. In 1815, a volcano called Mount Tambora in Indonesia erupted. It was the largest volcanic eruption in 1,300 years. It blasted so much ash and sulfur into the stratosphere that it created a global volcanic winter. The frozen summer. In June 1816, in places like Vermont and New York, it started snowing. People went to bed in the summer and woke up to a foot of snow. The crops died instantly. Birds dropped dead from the sky. People were so hungry they were eating pigeons and boiled nettles. The Great Migration. This disaster changed the map of America. Thousands of farmers in the East gave up. They packed their wagons and headed west toward the Ohio River Valley, hoping for warmer soil. This climate catastrophe is the reason the American Midwest was settled so quickly. The dark arts. While the world was dark and cold, a group of writers, including Mary Shelley and Lord Byron, were stuck inside a villa in Switzerland because the weather was too miserable to go out. To pass the time, they had a contest to see who could write the scariest story. Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. So, a volcano in the Pacific literally gave birth to America's westward expansion in modern science fiction in the same year. Chapter 3. 1849, the madness of the gold rush. If you think the influencer era is crazy, it's nothing compared to the California gold rush. In 1848, a guy named James Marshall found a few flakes of gold in a river. By 1849, 300,000 people from all over the world were sprinting towards San Francisco. The 49 heirs reality. Most of these guys died broke. They lived in tents, ate rotten beans, and spent 12 hours a day standing in freezing river water. But the service economy was booming. The legend of Levi Strauss. Levi was a German immigrant who arrived with canvas meant for tents. When he saw the miners' pants were falling apart from the rough work, he used that heavy canvas to make reinforced trousers. Later, he switched to a rugged fabric from Nimes, France, called serge de Nimes, which became denim. He added copper rivets to the pockets so they wouldn't rip when filled with gold nuggets. He did find gold. He found a clothing empire that defines American aesthetic to this day. Chapter 4. The War of the Currents. The high voltage beef. In the late 1800s, America was being plugged in, and it was a total war zone between two geniuses, Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. Their rivalry. Edison, the Wizard of Menlo Park, owned the patents for direct current, DC. But DC couldn't travel more than a mile without losing power. Tesla, the man from the future, arrived with alternating current, AC, which could travel hundreds of miles. The propaganda war. Edison didn't want to lose his monopoly. He started a smear campaign. He publicly electrocuted animals using AC to show it was deadly. He even helped develop the first electric chair, not because he supported the death penalty, but because he wanted people to associate Tesla's AC power with death. The victory. In the end, Tesla's tech was too good to ignore. It powered the Chicago World's Fair in 1893, and the world changed overnight. Tesla wanted to give the world free wireless energy, but his funders pulled out. He died alone in a hotel room, while Edison's companies became the giants we know today, like GE. Chapter 5. Prohibition. The Era of Jazz and Poison. From 1920 to 1933, America banned alcohol. It thought it would create a utopia. Instead, it created the dark age of crime, the birth of the mob. Before Prohibition, gangs were small and local. After alcohol became illegal, it became the most profitable product on earth. Guys like Al Capone became CEOs of crime. They ran the streets of Chicago like a private army. Speakeasies and bathtub gin. Since people couldn't go to bars, they went to speakeasies, hidden clubs behind bookshelves or in basements. Because the homemade alcohol, bathtub gin, tasted like poison or wood alcohol, bartenders started mixing it with sugar, fruit, and soda to hide the foul taste. This gave birth to the modern cocktail culture. The poisoning. The government was so angry people were still drinking that they ordered industrial alcohol to be denatured with lethal chemicals like kerosene and formaldehyde. They knew people would still try to drink it. Over 10,000 people died from drinking government-poisoned alcohol. It remains one of the most controversial war on drugs moments in U.S. history. Chapter 6. The Space Race. The most expensive flex. In the 1960s, the U.S. and the USSR were in a Cold War. They couldn't fight with nukes, so they fought with rockets. The impossible odds. When JFK said, "We choose to go to the moon," we didn't have the technology to do it. The computers on the Apollo 11 had less memory than a modern digital watch. The landing module was so thin that an astronaut could have accidentally poked a finger through the wall. The secret plans. Before they landed Neil Armstrong, the U.S. Air Force actually had a top-secret plan called Project A-119. They seriously considered detonating a nuclear bomb on the moon. Why? So the mushroom cloud would be visible from Earth, showing the Soviets that the U.S. owned the lunar surface. Cooler heads prevailed, and they decided that one small step for man was a much better look than a nuclear crater. Chapter 7. The Y2K bug and the digital rebirth. As we entered the 1990s, the world was terrified of the Y2K bug. People thought that because older computers only used 2 digits for the year, for example, 99, when the clock hit 00, every plane would fall from the sky and every bank would reset to 0. The reality. Programmers worked 24/7 for years to fix the code. When nothing happened on January 1st, 2000, people thought it was a hoax. It wasn't. It was just the greatest successful, unseen tech repair in history. This era gave us the aesthetic you love. The low-poly graphics, the translucent blue plastic of the original IMAX, and the rise of the early internet. It was the last time the world felt new before social media took over. Conclusion. The living history. American history isn't a museum. It's the story of people taking massive risks, making huge mistakes, and occasionally doing something brilliant. From the spies of the revolution to the super intern who stole moon rocks for a date, the U.S. is a story of ambition versus